Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. So today we are taking a look at some of the crazy aftermath from YCS Las Vegas, the huge 3v3 event that just took place over this past weekend. It's our first big event under the new ban list, and it's huge because it also has the newly released cards from Photon Hypernova now being legal, so the way that decks looked a couple of weeks ago is completely different from how they looked this past weekend. There's a ton of cards for us to cover, so we're going to take a look at some today and then a few more later on this week. Let's get started. To kick things off, we're taking a look at some Labyrinth cards. So for those of you who have paid attention the last few months, I personally am really big on Labyrinth, so it's exciting for me to see how well Labyrinth did this past weekend, taking several top spots at the event. Perhaps the biggest name to top was Ryan Yu, who managed to get second place at the event and actually managed to go undefeated with the deck. I think that a lot of players were expecting Labyrinth to be good, especially after seeing the deck perform over in the OCG, but we weren't really expecting to see such strong results from the deck so early on. This performance has definitely put Labyrinth in position to be a top tier threat this format, and people are taking note of that with several big buyouts. Perhaps the biggest one was Ariana the Labyrinth Servant, who is basically a Stratos for the archetype. This card gets you any of the deck's biggest tools, including Welcome Labyrinth, Big Welcome, Lady Labyrinth, and the Field Spell. Ariana had a huge spike in price for both the Ultra Rare and Collector's Rares versions. The Collector's Rares were down at around $100 to $110, those have jumped up to $140 each, and then even for just the Ultra Rares, those have been on a really steady climb up. They were about $25 just a week ago, they shot up out of nowhere, and the cheapest ones you can buy on TCG Player right now are almost $50 each, which is absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, as a new archetype from a relatively new set, it's not clear where exactly Ariana will be reprinted, since we haven't even seen a reprint of things like the Punk Foxy Tune or Rite of Ramazir. We should therefore expect it to be quite a while before this card does get reprinted, and honestly I don't see Ariana going down very much anytime soon. I could see it cooling off to around $40 within the next week or so as people gradually list some copies, but if the deck continues to perform well, I could definitely see this card maintaining quite a high price tag for the foreseeable future. The other Labyrinth card that I want to take a look at here is Lady Labyrinth of the Silver Castle. I think that Lady Labyrinth is the most important card in the deck. It's extremely easy and free to summon out of your hand, and it sets literally any normal trap from out of your deck. This can be things like Dimensional Barrier and Eradicator Epidemic Virus, cards that could literally win you the game. Now, being such a strong card, this is certainly a 3-of in the deck, and Lady Labyrinth saw a pretty decent bump up in price. The secrets were already trending upwards, they were around $18 to $20 each, they are now all the way up to $30, and oddly enough, even these Starlight Rares have jumped. They were down at $300 to $320, but now the cheapest ones on TCG Player are well over the $400 mark. Now, being a secret rare from Darkwing Blast, this is of course a fairly new card, and we shouldn't expect to see it reprinted until the 2023 Megatons, and given that it seems Labyrinth is one of the few decks that is able to stand up to and compete with Kashtira, I wouldn't expect this card to go down in price anytime soon. Now, as much as I am looking at Labyrinth to be amazing this format, I don't want to overhype the deck too much. It's certainly possible that we'll see players adapt and play more back row hate, and it's totally possible that Labyrinth will fall off over the next couple of events, only time is going to tell. But for now, with just the one event's worth of data to take into consideration, don't expect the hype for Labyrinth to die off anytime soon. Expect players to want to run them as a counter to Kashtira this format, and for them to continue to do well, and of course as a waifu deck, the deck's cards should continue to be in high demand. The other deck that got a lot of interesting hype this weekend was the Ninja deck, so we're going to take a look at a couple of cards from there. I believe that it was actually Jesse Cotton who chose to run this deck at YCS Las Vegas, and of course when such a high profile player picks up an unexpected deck, you can expect a lot of players to suddenly turn their attention to that deck as well. I don't believe that Jesse did particularly well at the event, but the fact that he even brought the deck to the event in the first place suggests that the deck has some interesting combos and playability that maybe haven't been looked into enough quite yet. Anyways, the first card we're seeing here is Maizen the Battle Ninja, who is actually a really great card for the Ninja Extra deck. It's a fusion monster that you can special summon by tributing 2 ninjas, and it allows all of your ninja monsters to attack your opponent directly, which could be a ton of damage. This card also has an effect where if your opponent activates a card or effect, you can special summon a ninja directly from your deck, either in face up or face down defense position. Naturally, this card can be a win condition on its own for ninjas, so it shouldn't be all that surprising that of all the different ninja cards to exist, this is one of the pieces that was targeted by players, and as a result did jump up in price. This card used to be dirt cheap, right? Like under 50 cents, but now we're seeing it at a pretty solid $4 to $5 per copy. If you want to play ninjas, this is probably actually something that you're going to want to grab 2 to 3 copies of. If you guys opened Darkwing Blast because you were hunting for Bestials or Fenrirs, check to see if you have any of these sitting in your holo bulk, because they were definitely really easy to overlook before. Alright, the other ninja card we're taking a look at here is actually quite an old one called Blade Armor Ninja. And honestly guys, this one just feels so weird to me. I actually remember picking up a bunch of copies of this card for like 25 cents each. This card used to be bulk that I just couldn't move and no one really cared about, and yet here we are talking about it getting basically completely bought off of the market in 2023. Now, Blade Armor Ninja is a rank 4 monster that requires 2 warriors to make, and once per turn you can detach a material from it to allow a ninja monster you control to attack twice. Now before, you used to just make this card so that it could target itself, effectively allowing you to attack for 4,400 damage with one monster. What's really scary though is that you can actually make this card and target Maizen, the card that we just talked about previously, and Maizen could attack twice, and all of that damage is actually going to be hitting your opponent directly, since Maizen allows your ninjas to attack your opponent directly. This means that with just Blade Armor Ninja and Maizen, you can attack for 7,200 damage, which is basically all of your opponent's life points if they've taken anything, or it's game if you have another ninja on your side of the field. It should be fairly straightforward to win the game from there. I guess that this is a win condition that was fairly easy to overlook before, but has now been brought to light with people looking into the ninja cards now, thanks to Jesse Cotton. As a result, people basically bought all copies of Blade Armor Ninja off the market. It only has 2 old super rare printings, the original printing from a core set, and then it got a reprint in an old special edition as well. Either of those copies is going to cost you between $15 and $20 a piece, which is honestly just like completely ridiculous to me. I don't really understand it. I don't know how easy it is to make this card or to do this combo and like OTK your opponent with ninjas. I'm not too familiar with the deck, but it looks like it should be fairly straightforward to do. I've seen Tom do some pretty crazy ninja combos in the past. I do think that this card's price is going to cool down fairly quickly as people dig out some old copies and list them back onto the market. I see this card settling at between $5 and $7 once some of this ninja hype dies off, so if you can, I definitely recommend offloading this card while there's still a bunch of hype surrounding it. The next one here is probably an unexpected one for a lot of us. It's Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon. Now this card is one that came out in Darkwing Blast and had a lot of initial hype, but hasn't actually seen very much play in the Ishizu tier limit format. Now, however, in our current format, the card is here and ready to disrupt combos and break boards. It allows you to flip all monsters on the field into face down defense mode, and then if anything is still face up afterwards, the owner has to send that card to the graveyard. So this card functions actually very similarly to something like Book of Eclipse, but without potentially giving your opponent a draw. It shuts down Kashtira boards, or you can flip your opponent's monsters face down mid-combo so that they can't interact with them. It also gets rid of indestructible monsters or monsters that are immune to card effects entirely, since the owner of that monster has to get rid of it rather than using the card effect. Now, I didn't actually notice too many deck lists from the YCS that were running this card, but I have seen it popping up as a tech card in Labyrinth, as well as just being a general out to Kashtira boards. At the same time, this card did go from being only $1 or $2 a couple of months ago to now being $6 to $7 per copy, obviously a very significant bump up in price. Obviously, we have yet to see just how much of an impact this card is going to have on the format, if any, but it's still a card to keep an eye on depending on how this upcoming format goes. As a trap, it is a lot slower, but it could be really devastating against the right deck. This card is definitely something to keep an eye on, but even then, I wouldn't want to pay more than like $3 or $4 right now, while this card is still relatively unproven. Up next, I do want to talk about Lava Golem, but specifically I want to focus on this card's lower rarities. Lava Golem is a pretty simple card. You tribute 2 of your opponent's monsters to special summon this card to your opponent's board, but in exchange you give up your normal summon for the turn. This is an extremely old card coming out back in Pharaonic Guardian, and it has seen meta-relevant play a couple of times over this card's history. However, it is becoming even more popular now because it's able to out Kashtira boards. because of the way Kashtira locks zones, you need a way to get Shangri-Ira off of the field without playing a card on your side of the field in case your zones are locked, and Lava Golem is one of the best ways to do so. Because of this, Lava Golem has been getting attention over the last couple of months, and now that Kashtira is arguably the best deck of the current format, more players are looking for copies of Lava Golem than ever before. The card has a bunch of really nice printings, including the original Secret Rare, the Dual Terminal printing, the Retro Pack Super, and the Dark Revelations Ultra. However, I'm more worried about the commons from the Shaddoll Structure Deck and Speed Duel Box, and then the Ultras from the Invasion of Chaos Special Edition and Merrick Structure Deck. Historically, this card hasn't been too expensive, right? And you would think that something printed so recently would only be a couple of dollars. However, for any versions of this card, for the commons and rare, you're looking at around $10 to $15 per copy right now. And then for the ultras, those are up at $15 to $20. Obviously, this is quite a big amount for those low rarity versions, and it really speaks to how impactful and important players are expecting this card to be in this upcoming format. You guys will definitely want to check at home to see if you have any copies of Lava Golem in your bulk, since they're definitely worth a decent chunk now, regardless of what version you have. And finally, the last card we're talking about for today is Nibiru, the Primal Being. So I think that we all know what Nibiru is by now, being a crazy hand trap that is able to absolutely destroy boards and can be really good against combo decks. However, this card hasn't seen very much play for the last while because it wasn't really great against the Shizu Tearlaments. They were able to simply use the effective rule Kalos to negate it for free, and they got to play again on your turn anyway, so they could just build a board back. Now, however, in our current format, Nibiru is a great card once again. It's really devastating against Kashtira, which looks like the best deck, and it could maybe also be useful against other decks like Sword Soul and Ninjas. Nibiru was in an interesting spot. It was already trending down in the last format, and then when it got that Megaton reprint as an ultra rare, no one really cared because it wasn't seeing very much play at that point either. Because of this, we did see the secret rare copies down at $4 and the ultras being around $1.50 to $2. Now, however, that the card is seeing meta play once again, we're seeing all of the prices rebound back up, with the secrets between $8 to $10 and then the ultras and gold rares at around $4 to $5. Even the ultimate rares have gone up from being $140 before to now being $170. It's really cool to see Nibiru running around in the game right now. I hate it when decks are able to set up such strong boards for free and not have to worry about being countered or broken, so I think it's just a part of being happy with the game, like becoming much healthier this format. I think that Nibiru now has too many printings to go up in price very much more, but it's definitely something that you guys should own at least a set of if you're looking to play this format. Alright guys, that is it for today's episode. It was really cool to see the top cut breakdown and all of the different decks. I'm really surprised to see that there wasn't any tier limit representation at all in the top cut, but I think that the format consisting of Kashtira, Labyrinth, and branded variants is going to be a pretty fun one. It also feels like a lot of other decks aren't too far behind, so I'm sure that we'll see more and more buyouts and price spikes as the format develops. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure that you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Also leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about these cards and what other cards are currently trending on the market because of the 3v3 YCS in Las Vegas. Also, if you haven't already, do make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.